Excellent. Good afternoon and welcome to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies nobody else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, and today I'm joined by my host, Aaron Sarles, and we are sitting down with Leah Amico. Is that correct?
Amico.
Amico. This is something I should have asked off camera. Three-time Olympic gold medalist, three-time national champion, speaker, author, and leadership coach who helps athletes and teams raise the standard of excellence. But we also have to mention that she's also a wildcat. From the University of Arizona, Leah represented Team USA for over a decade, winning 3 Olympic gold medals and establishing herself as one of the most versatile and mentally tough competitors in her sport. But Leah's impact goes far beyond gold medals. She is known for her mindset-driven approach to performance, her versatility on the field, and her passion for developing confident, resilient leaders. Today, Leah speaks to athletes, coaches, and organizations about what it takes to build championship culture on and off the field. As the author of The Gold Standard and several athlete-focused leadership journals, Leah brings a unique perspective on what separates good teams from great ones and what it really means to compete at the highest level while building character that lasts long beyond the medals are won. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. Leah, bear down. Thank you so much for joining us. This is badass. We love it.
Yes, go Cats. Always a Wildcat. And of course, USA. Always go USA. Excited to be with you all.
Absolutely. You just stayed with the red, white, and blue theme, didn't you, from Arizona?
I did.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it was much better than the brown and gold that I was in high school. So it was much better.
Or the cardinal gold of Arizona State, right?
Yes.
So, Leah, let's get into it. You're a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-time national champion, and now help athletes, teams raise the standard of excellence. What does raising the standard mean to you, especially having completed the highest level for over a decade?
Well, for me, I speak actually about the gold standard. It's the highest standard. It's when you make the Olympic team, you're not just happy to be there. It's like, how do we win gold? What is the highest of the highest? And so for me, raising the standards is showing up with your best effort, your best mindset, and every single day willing to do whatever it takes to find a way. You might have some days where you're tired, but even those days, like give 100% of what you do have. And so excellence every day, showing up and trying to give your very, very best.
Oh, that's awesome. And this is always a kind of a tricky one. What do you think is the biggest lie or misconception that you feel the culture of the sports industry sold athletes about what it takes to win Olympic gold and build championship culture?
Well, I think it's been around for a while, but more recently we're seeing it just continue to grow, is that it's all about you. I think when it's all about you, and that is all you care about, that is all you think about, I think people are absolutely missing the mark. I believe staying humble and allowing other people to help, give advice, be willing to receive advice, because when it's all about you, a lot of times our ego grows and so do our challenges. And you need people around you that support you. You need people that you can lean on. You need people that you can help. And that's all part of it. And so I believe that it's find the right group of people to move forward with. And with that, then you can achieve anything.
No doubt. So true. So you represented Team USA for over a decade and are known for your mindset-driven approach to performance. How did competing at the University of Arizona and then on the world stage shape your understanding of what separates good teams from great ones?
I think in high school, I had a lot of success, and travel ball, I had a lot of success, but then you get to college and I think you have to think a lot more. The challenges are bigger, the competitors are stronger, and you have to almost reinvent yourself many times. Like you have to keep getting better or you will be passed by, you will not be able to compete. And so for me, I feel like it was this idea to really start adding in a lot more of the mindset approach, the mindset of a champion, being able to fail and recover quicker than ever. I think that's absolutely crucial. That's what helped me to become an Olympian. And then being able to just really want the big moment and crave this idea of like, I truly believe that when everything's on the line, that I can get the job done, and I've prepared, and now I'm ready for it. And so I think it really does come down to understanding so much more, a lot of maturity. For me, that's what took place. Like, I'd already had success, I'd played with great teams, but it was a whole different level. And I realized that mentally I had to become a lot stronger in order to succeed.
No question. Well, that's kind of the nuts and bolts about Leah. So let's get into who is Leah. Let's get into segment 2. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron, which is identity and legacy. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, Leah, I want you to share with our audience, who is Leah beyond the 3 gold medals, beyond being a Wildcat at Arizona? Who are you? And I just want you to share that with our audience.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, my identity is in Jesus and who God says that I am. As a child of the King, I feel like I can do whatever God helps me to do. And so that's first and foremost. My faith is my foundation. It was actually in college that it just really got solidified on what I believe, why I believe what I do. And I feel like that purpose just came so much deeper. That has affected my family, how I've raised my 3 sons, my marriage. I've been married for 27 years. Speaking even, I did not think I could go out and speak. And after winning the 3 gold medals, I really felt the prompt in my heart, and that God had opened the door for me to go and share, not just about winning gold and obviously what that takes, but ultimately like the purpose and the love that God has for everyone, and just the value that we all bring, that everybody brings something different. And I had teammates that were all different than me. And so just even that, how to get along and have unity with everyone else that might be totally different than you, and yet you can move forward together. And so for me, I really am passionate about just letting people know that they're seen, they're valued, that their worth goes beyond anything that they'll accomplish.
Oh my gosh, I love that answer. That's the best answer. One of the best ones we've heard. I think it's so impactful. And I think it kind of dovetails into my next question I have for you. You were known for your versatility out on the field, your passion for developing confident, resilient leaders. What does legacy beyond performance mean to you, especially now that you're helping the next generation build championship cultures?
Well, I think it's powerful for you to be able to apply what you know and to find success, but I think it's more powerful to impact others so they can succeed too. And to me, obviously the next generation, but honestly, even women my age, like I want people to know, listen, like I know we're getting a little bit older now, but what do we have right now for us? Like I don't think we're ever too young or too old to dream, to go out and to risk and take risks and follow just goals that are placed inside our heart. And so for me, I really believe that legacy is creating impact to those around you, for them to believe bigger, desire more, and again, just to share that heart that they have, and really believe again their value and their worth makes a difference in this world in a positive way.
Oh gosh. I love it. I can see why God called you to speak, girl. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. It's so inspiring. And you're right. You just like nailed it. I think it's so important, I think, for people to hear that. So when you are out speaking to coaches, athletes, organizations about the gold standard, about building championship culture, what separates athletes that win gold medals from those who, what's that separation? What do you notice in those athletes that maybe makes them different than everybody else?
I feel like one of the words, as I've looked through just my experiences and looked at the women that I competed next to, and I've met so many people that are successful in all different areas, I feel like it's that word reliability. I feel like we don't need people to be super reliable when we're doing well, right? But when everything gets crazy, usually those are the people that everybody leans on, looks to. And to me, I believe that when I looked at my Olympic teammates, there were a lot of athletes who probably could have been on Team USA that didn't make it, and honestly maybe deserve to be there. But when I look at every single one of my teammates, it was the fact that in the biggest moments, they came through when their team needed it the most. They were the most reliable, not just once, not just twice, but all the time, on good days, bad days, and showing up. And not only, again, being an individual person that, is able to like kind of shine on the big stage, but to then say, okay, I'm also a team player. And what happens is I elevate everyone around me. I think those two things together, you're reliable, but you found a way to actually link arms and bring everybody more forward. And that's what I believe is what made up my Olympic team.
I love that. That's so, and you played with iconic people when you guys won the gold medal multiple times, but I love that resiliency. And to your point, kind of linking together, going, we're stronger together, and knowing the role that each play in that success. I think, sometimes we lose that. And I think you talked about that earlier, when we become over-identified just with ourselves, we forget we're part of a team and we need everybody else to excel around us. So what is one truth you wish young athletes, their parents and coaches understood about what it really takes to compete at the highest level while building character that lasts?
I think it's important to just always keep the right perspective. I mean, everybody is working so hard these days. People are specializing so much younger than ever. I think it's really important to have balance. I think so many times we think that won't work because I'm going to be behind and everyone else is getting ahead because they're putting in more work. But I think it's people that have joy and they have fun and they actually have things outside that can also build them up. I think it impacts even how you approach the sport. And so I think it's finding those right teams. I think also different players are different. Like coaches, there's different coaching styles. I think it's important to find the coaches that are going to work with your style. Everybody, a lot of times, are playing travel ball or, sports that are club in order to get to the next level. And so with that, there is obviously choice involved, whether the team chooses you, you got to try to make that happen, but you also can choose the organization. And so I think sometimes people get in environments that aren't really where they would thrive. I played against teams that were elite teams, but I played with coaches that really worked towards my personality, my strengths, and I saw them pull that out of me. And so there's different styles out there, finding what works for you, and then just having that balance.
I love that. I think that's good sound advice. So I'm going to continue. Thomas had some internet issues, so we're going to just keep plugging away. It's me and you, Leah, for a little girl talk today.
Okay.
So with that, I would love to kind of, our next segment that we go over is kind of advice at all stages. So if you could sit down with yourself at the University of Arizona, before you knew you'd become a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, what advice would you give that young athlete about mindset, preparation, and what is coming next?
Well, I think it's just really to learn to use failure to your advantage as quickly as possible, because everybody's going to fail. And I feel like that's the very thing that held a lot of people back if there were struggles. Obviously, you're not always going to get a hit. You're not always going to pitch a strike. You're not always going to make the perfect play. But the key is, when it's not going so smoothly, how do you respond? And for me, I feel like for the most part, I did okay with that. And that's why I was able to get to the level I got to. But I also feel like that's the biggest hurdle. That's the number one question I get when I speak all over and speak to college athletes today, is how do I bounce back and bounce back quicker? And to me, I really believe the answer is, what is the lesson? How quickly can you learn the lesson? How fast can you make the adjustment? And how quickly can you move forward in this, I want another opportunity? And I think if you do those things, it causes you from pulling backward. It causes you from fearing failure. It causes you from being worried about the next opportunity. And it pushes you, again, forward in every way, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
God, that's great advice. Sound advice. That applies, I think, to everybody in life, is what's the lesson and how quickly can I move through this? But not just for the athletes, but if you even learn that as an athlete, it's amazing how that applies across life. So what advice would you give young athletes that are chasing their Olympic dream? And what do they need to understand about the mindset-driven approach that helped you win 3 gold medals?
I think one of the biggest things for me that allowed me and prepared me was that starting at 14 years old, I was playing in national championships and in the big moments. And with my teammates, we came and we won when we were expected to win. We won when we were not expected to win. I was coming up in moments that had this big pressure attached to them. And so I think being able to find settings that allow you to compete. Now, that might be at a young age, there's a team you could go play for, but you're not going to get a lot of playing time. So maybe I'm going to come over here and play to get playing time. But then maybe there's another year of, no, you know what? In practice every day, I'm going to level up because this is a lot harder. I think maybe finding those individual instructors. I mean, really for me, I realized like I did it at a time where very few people were doing that. So that one-on-one, those lessons and who you have helping you is crucial. I had somebody, I was a pitcher growing up when I was 14 years old. I went to a different pitching instructor. I was not with her very long. She was an elite athlete, one of the best in the sport. She represented Team USA years earlier, but it wasn't like I was not progressing. And so then we made a switch and we actually went to another elite. It happened to be a male, and he was able to unlock something new for me and get me to another level. And so I think even that, like, who are those people that can help you? When I eventually became like, I was Team USA, I was done playing, I was done competing at college. I had to find people to train with me. I went out and had to find men's pitchers to pitch to me so I could prepare when I wasn't getting all the games in. So I really believe like that pushing and that challenging was causing me to say, okay, am I still failing? How do I find success at the harder situations at higher levels, and then continuing to move forward with that? So surround yourself with the right setting at the right time. I think there's times where you need to be somebody getting the reps in, because without reps in a really great program, you're not going to necessarily get much better. But there's times and spaces for that where people around you can push you to be better.
I love that. I think that, yeah, and finding the right one for you too. Sometimes not everything, I mean, you've highlighted now that a couple of times, whether that's the personal coaches you're working with or just even the teams that you're on, I think makes such a difference. So with that, my last question in this segment, for coaches and parents, what do they need to know about developing confident, resilient leaders, not just talented athletes?
Well, I think it's important to know what drives them, find their motives and why they do what they do. I think trying to take as much pressure off as possible so that they can go out and just play freely. I think college coaches even try to do this as well, of like, don't let people get in their head. You want them to be free. So as parents, and they're with you all the time, how do you do that? Most kids, especially on a bad day, they drove the car ride home. So finding ways to just continue to encourage and build. But honestly, there's some athletes and some people that they need to be pressed a little bit. They need to be pushed harder. So I think a great parent, I feel like my coach was like this with us on Team USA as well as at Arizona. He had an ability to read what we needed. And so some he was a little bit harder on, and others he just kind of like, let's go. And he knew what he could get out of people. So as a mom, like I tried to emulate that. I have 3 sons and they were all wired differently. And so I just try to read the circumstance, the situation after like a rough track meet. I knew, okay, now's the time to just build up. I knew at time, maybe, before a big race, the time to keep them as like calm as possible and reminded on the bigger picture and purpose and perspective. And then other times, like when they're being a little lazy, like pushing them a little bit. And so I feel like as parents, like our number one job is to allow them to know we love them no matter what they accomplish or don't accomplish. Our goal is to try to pour into them, find their strengths, and really like build those up. That's been my goal. And I feel like, especially, my younger 2 sons were more into sports anyways, football and then track and field. And I feel like it was just this idea of that. And they have become more confident. They have become leaders within their groups. They have become, people who are going after big dreams and goals with a lot of belief in themselves. And so I don't think there's one answer, but I think it's just really trying to see the situation and build up. Because I'm going to be honest, everyone on the Olympic team, we're already hard enough on ourselves. But then when you had that support system behind you, it helped you to believe you could do much more.
I love that. Yeah. Sometimes your best job as a parent and sometimes as coaches, just being that cheerleader sometimes for them, like you're their support system, to your point, because most of the time everybody is so hard on themselves. They don't need somebody else pointing out wrong, but more that question, like, what did you learn from that? And what would you do differently going forward? So I love that. So now we're going to do the rapid fire round where I'm going to ask you, I'm going to start a sentence and then you're just going to finish my sentence for me. So discipline equals
commitment level. You'll be disciplined if you're committed.
Leadership equals
influence.
Faith equals
foundation of everything.
I love that. Legacy equals
an impact that lasts well beyond you do.
Let's see. What's one thing you would never compromise on?
For me, it's my value system. I have people that will try to do partnerships with me. And there's just been some things that I've had to say no to, even though they tell me how great it is, because it does not align with my values. And so for me, like, my faith is, a standard that I set, and I want to make sure that everything that I'm going to do is going to glorify God.
I love that. And what is one message, if you could put it on a billboard for the next generation of athletes, what would that be?
That God has a bigger plan for your life than you can ever imagine.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's fire. That is so good. I love that. Listen to that, kids. It's so true. So as we wrap up, before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you feel athletes, coaches, or leaders need to hear about around building championship cultures, setting the gold standard, or competing at the highest level?
I think that we need to be resilient. We need to be able to bounce back. I think any great athlete, any successful family, athlete, anything, they're people who've gone through a lot and they've come out stronger for it. I think not making excuses, not pointing fingers, but being the solution people. Like, be the ones that creates the best solution and finds a way, again, not only for you to move forward, but everyone around you. And ultimately just taking the right reps. I think hard work is what it's about. I talk about having fun. I talk about, making sure you keep perspective, but at the end of the day, hard work is what should be at the core of everything. I know for me, like, I went and there was always a purpose behind what I was doing. I did not go through the motions. I wanted more. I didn't cut corners. I talk about that a little bit in my book, The Gold Standard, about not cutting corners, because a lot of people are looking for that. But when you don't, and you do it the right way, like, I feel like the achievements and the results, they take care of themselves. So stay focused on the process. As the last thing I want to say is, I really believe that I was able to be my best, and my coach led us, and he was very, very process oriented. Everything we did every single day allowed us to go and compete, and he knew that the outcome would take care of himself. So he didn't freak out about those moments. He really dug into how we prepare, what we do on a daily basis. And that's where I talk about the gold standard, is how I show up. It matters how my mindset, the actions that I take, the people I surround myself with, that if I put those right pieces in place, then I know that great things are going to happen, and every one of us can be the gold standard.
I love that. Yes. Preparation, the process, it's the journey sometimes, not the end goal. And you're right, it always does take care of itself. So we'll have these in the show notes, everybody, but where can people connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, my website is leahamico.com, LEAHAMICO, and Leah 20 USA on Instagram. I share all the places that I go and what I'm doing and what I'm speaking on. And yeah, and then through that, and then my books are on Amazon under my name, Leah Amico. I have multiple books out and journals for athletes and softball players. And so, yeah, there's just multiple places, but my website is probably the best to find all of it.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, go check out Leah Amico. Again, it'll be in our show notes. She is absolutely one of the most incredible human beings that we've had the pleasure of interacting with at Blueprint to Blue Chip. She sets the standard for all of us, which I love. I mean, it's such an inspiration, I think, to young girls. Sometimes we get a lot of guys on here, which we love, but we also need to share the love with the ladies, because I love women's sports. My daughter plays softball, so this was a special one for me. So I just want to thank you again, Leah, for showing us what the gold standards of excellence really looks like. Such a pleasure. And if this conversation hits you, I want to ask you to do two things. I want you to share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it: a young athlete chasing an Olympic dream, a coach building a championship culture, a leader trying to develop confident, resilient teams. And two, follow Leah at Leah 20 USA or visit leahamico.com. If you're ready to raise the standard of excellence and build championship culture, Leah brings the mindset and experience of a 3-time Olympic gold medalist to help you get there. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach ready to raise your standard, check out Blueprint to Blue Chip at blueprintbluechip.com to help athletes build identity, discipline, and legacy that goes far beyond the game. And if you are ready, and if this episode resonates with you, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who need this message. This is a Standard podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fade, but truth endures. Raise the bar, rebuild the culture, become the standard. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you. It was great to be with you.